2019 is the year I pledged to play through the Castlevania franchise and record my journey through these vlogs, culminating in one big video review at the end. And now with entry 17, we sidestep into the world of spiritual successors with Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Welcome back everybody to another Castlevania Diaries, or as I should say, a Bloodstained Diary. I had a little bit of technical issues with the whole virus slowing down the world, and I wasn't able to transition from Lament of Innocence to Curse of Darkness or any other Castlevania game in time. And since I had Bloodstained on the shelf, I'm like, you know what, I'll just get into Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. Because I have Curse of the Moon and Ritual of the Night, I've had them for a year and they were just more easily accessible. I was really saving these for the end of the Castlevania Diaries series so that I could compare them. But given that at this point I've already gone through most of the classic style Castlevania games, which are your typical NES Castlevania, you know, you run right, you go up the castle, and it's all about timing, precision, and angles. I figure it was okay to compare that, everything I've done so far, to Bloodstained. So anyways, Curse of the Moon I was able to complete in one stream, which is a little refreshing. The Metroidvanias, they tend to go out, like the last few games have gone on for a good month or two worth of streams. So to go back to a classic style Castlevania type game that can be played through an entire stream was kind of refreshing. So today I'm just going to go through everything. I've got my list here, starting off with the visuals of Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, and I'll be honest, I don't like 8-bit retro style graphics. I just don't. So the visuals here don't do anything for me, but in terms of what they're going for and how they're trying to emulate the 8-bit era, they did a fantastic job. Everything looked great. It looked like it was something you'd play on an NES, and it gave me a bunch of PTSD memories just from my own days of struggling on an NES. The other component that is very unique, well, the first thing that was very surprising to me is the fact that the first character you play with has no whip. So you play as a character named Zangetsu, and apparently like this is a prequel, I think, to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which is the game I'm currently playing. So I'm going to point out that there are quite a few cool things that some of the enemies and bosses and characters that you find in Curse of the Moon come back in a whole different style in Ritual of the Night, and I think that's cool. But anyways, Zangetsu, it reminds me very much of like NES era Ninja Gaiden with less abilities. So it's pretty much, you know, your short sword kind of guy, and he has secondary ability. So another thing that every character, oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's so many things to talk about, but let's talk about Zangetsu. So he has a few secondary abilities. The most notable one to me is the one where he shoots, like it looks like a whip at a 45-degree angle, but it's not a whip. And so there's two ways to play this game. And the first is you go through it, you kill the bosses, and you unlock secondary characters to switch, and you can choose between Zangetsu, I think it's Miriam, her name, I'm not sure, freaking Alfred, we're going to talk about Alfred, and then Alucard Wannabe, because I don't remember his name, but it's pretty much Alucard with a different name. And each of those characters have different abilities and pros and cons. So you can play with a cast of 4 characters, or so I'm told. You can play and kill those characters and absorb their power to make your base Zangetsu stronger. So there's 2 ways to play this game. I've only played the one where you save all the characters. So I guess I will need to come back to this game and visit it with just the Zangetsu playthrough. But anyways, Zangetsu, very interesting to play. Like I said, it's Ninja Gaiden. But Miriam, which I think is the next character you unlock, she has the whip and she has the slide kick. She is the Castlevania character. I'm like, oh, this is what I was missing. And she has more life. She's more agile. She was the most comfortable character to play with through the whole game. And I always wanted to go back to Miriam. I really hope that's what her name is. Otherwise, this is going to be a very awkward review. The third is a freaking old dude named Alfred with like so little life, moves like an old man, and knocks people with the cane. Absolutely the most useless character. I hate Alfred so much until I realized you could pick up the secondary ability where he shoots a beam of ice and destroys everything in front of you on screen. Holy shit, that became useful. And I think he has another one that surrounds himself with fire, and then you can like just go through everything. His ice attack, when I figured what that was, OP. OP character. Like he had his purpose. And then the fourth one is the Alucard character, which lets you turn into a bat. And I think you can shoot the fireballs like Dracula. Like it's literally Alucard clone. Now, really love that concept. Really love switching between the characters. What I hated was the fact that, let's say I made it to the boss or a difficult segment with only 1 or 2 characters left. I knew I couldn't beat that character because I needed the whole crew or all of the stamina and the health of all 4 characters to take on a challenge. And there was no way for me to just like reset or restart outside of killing myself so that I could respawn with all 4 characters intact and then take on the challenge. So that's one of the design flaws I felt with the 4 characters, is there should be a way to revive them, or there should be just before a boss. It just seems useless to try to take something on when you just don't have the requirements to do that. So that was the biggest drawback. But playing each character was fun once you learn how to use them. And I think that was, I only played this in about a 3-hour window, so just enough to start getting used to the characters, but a lot of that initial frustration stuck with me of the shortcomings of the characters. But just like any game and any character, when you have options, you have to take the time to learn each character. That's just the reality. And when you play with all 4 of them, they're a lot stronger as a team than as individuals. So I can't imagine what it's like playing Zangetsu on your own. Apparently you get a lot of cool super abilities. Someone said it's actually just exactly like playing Ninja Gaiden, like you have all those abilities. So that is something I might take back and try. The other thing are the bosses. The bosses were done very well. Not at all like Castlevania NES. The bosses were big, they were impressive, they were intimidating, they had a pattern, they were fair. It wasn't 2 hits you die and it takes like 500 hits to kill it. It was a fun battle, it was enjoyable. Even the final boss, which I felt completely overwhelmed by, I looked up a guide. I won't lie. I looked up a guide how to take on the final boss because I wanted to do it in one stream. And once you know where to stand and how to do it, it's easy. You can do it without getting hit at all. So I really enjoyed the bosses here compared to Game Boy and NES and even SNES version of Castlevania bosses. The only thing I didn't like, and this is a little trolly, is the fact that every time the bosses died, they had like some kind of super attack that is really hard to dodge. You usually don't see it coming, and it basically so here's the good thing. It's supposed to kill you. If you get hit by it, though, I think it just takes you down to your 1 HP or something. So it's a troll done well, because if that last attack from each boss would kill you, oh my god, would that be frustrating to go through a whole boss fight just to get this like super OP attack to just kind of come out of nowhere and hit you. I think I got hit by every single one on all the bosses. Like I just could not dodge them because you don't know what to expect and you have a split second like window to react. So it's a troll move. I like it. I like how it was implemented. I like that it only depletes your health entirely versus killing you. Old NES Castlevania, they would have killed you. They wouldn't have even hesitated. They'd be like, oh, you beat me? Boom, you're dead, because they hate you. Otherwise, the music is the last thing I think I need to talk about. Nothing really stood out for me in this one. Unlike Bloodstained, which I'm currently getting into, and that's going to be my next diary. The Bloodstained Ritual of the Night soundtrack, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. Curse of the Moon, I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't remember much of anything that really stood out that I'm humming to myself or that I recall being that great. And then I guess lastly, the story. Is there much of a story? You know, you can tell that it really wanted to be Castlevania and they couldn't, but all the elements are there. You have to go into a castle, you have to climb the castle. There's evil, you have to fight evil. It's in the middle of the night, it's creepy. So it's kind of hitting all the Castlevania beats. And honestly, as someone who's now understanding the Castlevania fandom a bit more, for someone who really loved growing up on classic Castlevania and has not seen Castlevania since I think the last one was on the Wii, like the last 2D one, this game, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, is a welcome refresher for that fandom, and I'm like 2 years late to this, maybe even 3. I don't remember when it came out, but this is the way that you make a spiritual successor. This is a really good continuation of what Castlevania NES was, classic Castlevania, and you're giving it a modern remake. Not even a remake, you're bringing it into modern times, but as a new experience. You're continuing what 2D Castlevania could have been, and I think they could still do more of these. You could do the Curse of the Moon formula, and the classic. That, remember, I always say there's 3 columns to Castlevania. There's the 2D side action, Metroidvania, and 3D, which sucks. This first column gets a lot less love than the other 2 columns, especially recently. And I think that they could continue. I think it was Way Forward that did Curse of the Moon. I think there's a market to continue pumping those out, fleshing it out, whether you call it Bloodstained Castlevania or something else. There's a market for that, and you could easily release a game like that every maybe year or 2 and continue experimenting with like little tweaks and add-ons, kind of like what Shovel Knight has done with the 2D platformer genre. That thing has 4 expansions that touch and reinvent 2D platforming in ways you would have never thought would be possible in a genre that's 30 years old. And I feel that the Bloodstained formula, what they did here, is indicative that they could do more if they wanted to. And I don't know the numbers of how much it sold and all that, but I personally, from where I stand and what I see, I think there's appetite for it. I think there's enough ideas to continue this. And we saw here a rotating cast of 4 characters. You could do even more characters with different abilities and build new worlds and monsters around that. So Curse of the Moon, very, very good to see, because spiritual successors, as we know, isn't always a surefire hit. We've seen a lot of failures, and I'm really happy to see one that worked. Castlevania Column A, probably the one I disliked the most. I don't know, maybe I like it more than 3D, but that's not saying much. But still, happy this happened, happy I played it, happy I understood the Castlevania legacy around it, and I look forward to seeing what Bloodstained Ritual of the Night does to the Metroidvania column, because that one is a lot more competitive. There's a lot of modern Metroidvanias, and to see what Ritual of the Night tried to do while being the spiritual successor to Symphony of the Night, but also being relevant against all the other Metroidvanias out there, I'm really curious to see how that one's going to stack up. And I'll share my thoughts on that in the next Castlevania Diaries with all of you, so be sure to subscribe, like the video. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, keep it classy.